Today, I want to talk about where your clients are getting stuck, specifically, how to find the gaps in your customer journey. And so, when I'm talking about gaps, I am talking about any point in your client experience, in your customer journey, where clients are unable to clearly or easily move from where they are to where they need to go next. And so when you're thinking about that, that's anything where communication is a gap, where anywhere where your client has to ask you, okay, what happens next? Or what do we do now? Or when will I receive this? The moment your client is asking you multiple different questions, you have to understand that there's a gap that needs to be filled. And so, with that being said, I want you to begin to think about what are those specific areas in your business during your client onboarding, during the consideration phase, when they're thinking about working with you. If they're in your DMs and they're asking you for links or asking you questions on how to book, that is a clear gap that you need to fill. Okay. When you have clients saying, okay, who do I go to for this? Or when should I expect this? That is a communication gap. And they're unclear of your process. And so they're going to continue to reach out until you fill the gap. Other things that you want to make sure that you do is find the gaps in your business where your clients are waiting for you. If your clients are waiting for you to respond, if they're waiting for a deliverable, if you have become the bottleneck in them making progress or getting something done, it's a gap in your business that you need to fill. Okay. And so these gaps could look so differently. It could look like a delay, it could look like unclear instructions, it could look like missed communication. It could look like them having to follow up with you versus you having to follow up with them. It could look like disconnected platforms. A lot of times, businesses are using multiple platforms to communicate with their clients. So you may have clients where you're sending them emails for their deliverables, but then you're in Slack for communication. And then you have that one client who may be texting you at all times of the day. And so there's so many different platforms that you're using to communicate with your client. You might even have a CRM with a client portal for them to also receive communications. And so they're reaching out in so many different ways. And you think you have a beautiful tech stack, but your client is confused, they're overwhelmed, and they don't want to deal with another tool. Okay. Trust me, I hear it all the time where they're like, man, it was just so much work. We were in so many different tools, and I really just kind of am overwhelmed and overstimulated by all of the tools. And I just want to condense everything, simplify everything. So the moment where simplicity is no longer the standard in your business, particularly for your clients, you need to go back and address those particular gaps. Okay. So find where the clients are asking questions the most, and then also find where they're waiting on your business. Okay. You also want to find the gaps where my phone is blowing up. You also want to find the gaps where your clients are repeating themselves. If they're saying the same things over and over again, and you might be like, oh, I thought I answered that. Oh, I thought I showed you this. That means there is a lack of clarity, and you show and not tell. Okay. A lot of times we try to send an email to kind of brush it off because we don't want to deal with it. But sometimes you need to stop long enough to send a video so that they can have something that they can always go back to. So they're not repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Okay. And so make sure that you're looking at the information that you're providing them. Make sure that emails and follow-ups and things are automated as needed or based on approval. So you can set up reminders and automations, but you can also mark them where it requires your approval before sending, just so you're not following up and you just talk to them that morning. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And so you also want to find steps that rely on you remembering something. And so sometimes it's not that your systems and processes are out of whack, it's that something has to go through you. And so even you having to remember something is a gap in your business, because you never want your business or your organization to be dependent on you to prosper, to grow, to survive, to get things done. You don't want you to become the bottleneck in your business. And so one way to address that is to make sure that you're not remembering all of the things. Anything that is in your head, it needs to be documented. If it's a process, if it's a login, like whatever it is, it needs to be documented. So many CEOs and founders, they're remembering everything that has to do with their business. And so the moment that they want to take a day off, they can't fully rest because someone has to go through them to get their work done while they're away. And so it becomes a stressful vacation, right? And so I'm gonna leave y'all there because I actually have a client call in 8 minutes, but I wanted to make sure I come on live to just give you some things to think about when it comes to finding the gaps and auditing your client journey. And so think through those things, document, right? Even if you have a survey or a feedback form that you send to your clients post delivery, you want to make sure that you're asking them, like, hey, what could I have done better? And then using that feedback to improve the quality of service that you're providing for your clients. And yeah, so that's that. I might try to go back on here and go more in depth and then walk you through the actual document where you can map out your client journey, and it talks about the touch points and the gaps, and we go through the gaps for each particular stage of the client journey. And so if I have time, I have quite a few meetings today and tonight, and so if I have time, I'll come back on live and show you all that particular video, or if not, I'll record it and then upload it for you. All right, hope that helped. Talk soon.